my whole premise is it is possible to do that, though, so I certainly don't want to act as though that's impossible. It's just something we have to develop. But we haven't really developed it. We don't have the confidence in our ability to do that, so we just choose one powerful role. It's a cop-out. It's a cop-out on the system design. And we're going to make up for that by having a really extra good person there. So this really extra good person's supposed to shoulder the burden of our not really having a good system. But what it happens instead is the better game players come along, play the system like a fiddle, and get those positions of power. It doesn't end up with the better people, it just ends up with the people most attracted, like to a big magnet. Of course there are exceptions, because there is a civic pride and there is a natural urge to be statesman-like, and we get some good people. But they're in the minority, and that's again the point of the systematics. If you look at the systematics, you can see that even though there's going to be a certain percentage of people doing this in that noble way that we're supposed to learn in civics class, of that spirit, even though there's a certain number of those people around, the systematics are such that they're going to be outnumbered by those just attracted to the power and the money, and basically attracted to the opportunity to corrupt the system. And yet, they won't have corrupted the system, because the system will have had an executive. The system will have put its trust in their discretion. And so the system made a mistake. It's an error in the system. Because there's always going to be people, and people are always going to be in situations where they're going to yield to the pressure, to the temptation and whatnot. Now, again, don't get me wrong, I have, you can see other videos, I have a system of morality and ethics, and I believe people can do better. But that's not an excuse to have a system that puts discretion in the wrong place. So okay, back to my point. So, what we really need is a way to get the right decision to the right person. We would need an understanding of jurisdiction. Let's say, for example, that instead of a president, we elected every member of the cabinet. Every member of the cabinet was elected. All right. Now, sometimes their decisions would come in conflict, so we'd have to have a way to resolve that. Now, a committee, I don't think it's a useful tool, but it's not a good decision-making body. Better than that is a system of responsibilities. You could still elect a president, for example, that gets final say, but he would only get final say when there was a conflict between cabinet members. You know, so he would have a big say in budget. He would have a big say in massive programs, still in matters of war. So this is conceivable that the responsibilities, that you could have a system to basically set up the jurisdiction of particular domains for each branch of the executive office, and you wouldn't have to have a unitary leader where the decisions came down. Instead, that person becomes an arbiter and a negotiator. The president, that is, would be an arbiter and a negotiator among the specialists. He would help the right decision go to the right person when there was those borderline cases. Anyway, it's just something to conceive of, because I think we don't even admit to ourselves how much we're stuck in thinking things like, oh, you have to have an executive. Oh, democracy can't work in a workplace. Oh, you know, governments are automatically, inefficient. I mean, I believe governments are automatically inefficient in a sense, but only in the sense that corporations are even worse. They're even more automatically inefficient. And both of them can be trimmed down, exercised, made to be, efficient. And in the end, I think you'll be able to make the government more efficient than corporations, just by the nature of the motivation of how they work. But to do that, you would need to design a good system. And I'm tired of seeing people cop out like it's impossible to create a good system. You know, I agree, you'll never have a good country just because you have a good system and you have a bunch of assholes acting like assholes. But, you know, no system will turn that into a nice place to be. But we don't have that in the U.S. The U.S. people are pretty good people. All they need is a decent system to interact with each other, and we need to not cop out. And we don't even realize that we're copping out and not making a system that is going to work. We think every system gets messy and dragged down, but that's all because of the philosophical underpinnings of our justice system. The philosophical underpinnings of how we run the government are mistaken, and so it's like trying to do math when you assume that the Earth is the center of the universe. Well, it's not the real center, and if you make it the center, then the mathematics for where all the planets are going gets messy and complicated. It's hard to do. Only an expert can do it. But once you put the sun in the middle, the true middle, or should I say the more true middle of the solar system, then the math becomes a lot easier. It's much more accessible. A lot more people can do it. It's easier to understand. And that's what we have right now. We think that making a governmental system work is too difficult. And it's only too difficult because our mental technology that we use to try to think about that is mistaken. It's 2,000 years old on the wrong direction. We need the one for the next 2,000 years.